Hi guys, today's lesson is very exciting. We're going to start with the brain, and I'm hoping that you carry and you understand everything that we've done so far. Alright, just to quickly recap, we know now that the CNS is made up, or central nervous system is made up of the brain and spinal cord. Alright? We're going to start off with the brain, and that's what today and tomorrow's lesson is about, the brain. Okay. First thing that you have to remember is that the brain is protected in three ways. One, the cranium, which is the skull. Two, it's got three membranes called the meninges. And three, cerebrospinal fluid. Now, please turn to your textbook at page 108. We are on page 108, and you're going to use that in conjunction with the diagram that I'm doing with you right now. Okay, so the main function of the meninges is to protect the brain. What is the meninges? I drew a little figure here. Around the brain, around the soft tissue of the brain, there are three membranes, very thin ones. I've just drawn them spaces apart. And these membranes go right around the brain. They don't just go halfway. Right? The names of each of these membranes you don't need to know because you're doing CAPS. But collectively, the three membranes are called the meninges. And in between this meninges, there is a liquid. The liquid is called cerebrospinal fluid. In the brain, there are some areas that are open. They are called ventricles, which you don't have to know, but out of interest, these ventricles are all filled with this fluid, and its main function is a shock absorber, as I've already indicated to you, that the brain is important, it's transmitting messages, it is carrying signals in the form of electrical charges, which we said is going to be our impulse. Right? So I do this again. The cranium, which is your skull, the three membranes together collectively is called the meninges. In between the meninges, there is a liquid. The liquid is called cerebrospinal fluid. And what does the liquid do? It acts as a shock absorber. So that's the brain, just basically starting with it. Just as a point of interest, when we look at meninges, if these membranes become inflamed, if there is any infection in it and it becomes inflamed, can you guess what you suffer from? Look at the word meninges. Right, meningitis. And its symptoms are headaches, flu-like symptoms. With the headaches, it does not mean that if you have a headache, you have meningitis. Go to a doctor, and usually if he suspects that there's inflammation of the meninges, he will check if you can move your neck or your head left or right, and then they do different tests. But this was just out of interest, so you know now meningitis is affecting these membranes. Okay, let's go on to the next page. The brain. We are going to look at the external structure of the brain. We're now on textbook page 108. And unfortunately, this diagram doesn't have the meninges. So, guys, let us draw the meninges so we know that there are three membranes going right around. And all three collectively is called the meninges. And in between them, there is a liquid called cerebrospinal fluid, which is a shock absorber. So if we're looking at the external structure of the brain, this is what it looks like. And I know many of you eat brain as a meal. It's full of omega-3 and not yuck. I know I can hear you saying that. The largest part of the brain, can you see this part that's convoluted? Convoluted means kind of entangled or twisted. folded. That largest part of the brain is called the cerebrum. All right, good people? So the largest part of the brain is called the cerebrum. And for interest, now I'm telling you that the cerebrum is divided into two hemispheres, a left and right hemisphere. And there must be something to join it together because it cannot lie loosely in your head. We're going to look at that when we do the internal structure. So there's a cerebrum. There's our meninges filled with cerebrospinal fluid. And you see this part here? That part that looks like a little bundle there. That is called the cerebellum. What? Cerebellum. I'm going to teach you how to remember that. And this part here is called the medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata. How are we doing, good people? Are we coping? Now, what I want to just mention to you, that remember when we did axons, we did the motor neuron and we did the cell bodies, if you can remember this, inside here we had cytoplasm. The cytoplasm inside a neuron is called neuroplasm, which makes sense. The neuroplasm is actually gray in color in the brain. And remember that we had the myelin sheath, which was a fatty layer. The myelin sheath, because it's fat, it's white in color. You know when fat is cold, it's white. So when we speak about the gray matter and white matter, the gray matter is where you're going to find the nuclei and all the neuroplasm, in other words, the cytoplasm, and where they talk about white matter, that's where all your axons are. So in the cerebrum and cerebellum, the arrangement is such that you're going to have the gray matter on the outside and the white matter on the inside. The same here. Gray matter on the outside and the white matter on the inside, which gives it a special kind of look when we look at internal structure. All right, let's move on. Now, this I've put in for you just to tell you that there's different parts of the brain. You don't have to know this. That's why I've put it in brackets. Now let's scratch it out. You don't need to know that. You don't need to know that. You don't need to. What you need to know is that this entire area, this entire surface area, this thing here is your cerebrum. It's the largest part of the brain. It's made up of a left and right hemisphere, and there's something in your brain that's joining it, so it does not move out of position. All right. Then we got the cerebellum, and we've got the medulla oblongata. Let's move on, guys. Go to the internal structure of the brain. Again, I've reiterated how is the brain protected. There's the three ways: cranium or your skull, the meninges, which are the three membranes called together as meninges, the cerebrospinal fluid, which is the shock absorber. Let's look at what your brain looks like internally. How's this? Now we can see quite nicely. There's your cerebrum. There's this part here, which I'm going to introduce to you now. Here's your cerebellum. Look how the gray matter and white matter is arranged. And there's your medulla oblongata. And something that I think you're going to quite like, at last to see, is your pituitary gland. Can you remember when we did the pituitary gland? During the reproductive section, reproduction, when we produced FSH and LH. So this is what the pituitary gland looks to tell you guys. If you look at a cool baked bean, one of it, that's how tiny this gland is. It's also known as the hypophysis, and it's also called often as the master gland. Okay, are we all right so far? Now we're going to discuss the corpus callosum. Can you see the structure here? Let's highlight it for you. Let's be a little bit innovative today. We'll use purple. What do you say? Purple, can you see? Oh, green, purple, bad color. Let's use orange. How's that? Can you see this area here? This is called the corpus callosum. And the corpus callosum is fibrous tissue that is joining the two hemispheres together of the cerebellum. Let's move on. Look at this. There's your corpus callosum, and now I've put in the note for you. It is joining the two hemispheres together. And then there's an area just above the pituitary gland called the hypothalamus. Let's move on. So I've made a little note for you on all the functions of it, but I think let's just go back and try and teach you some of the functions. Here's your cerebrum. Cerebrum and functions. It is the area that receives and interprets sensation. So this is the area where you're going to have touch, smell, taste, hearing. All of that is happening in this area. In each lobe, you've seen in the first diagram, there was parietal lobe, occipital lobe. Each area here is designated for specific sensation. So it receives and interprets sensation. It controls all voluntary movement. So just to take the pen and write is controlled by this. Voluntary is something that you are able to control. And another function of it, it controls all higher thought processes, such as memory, consciousness, thinking, applying, all of that here. That's your cerebrum. Then, corpus callosum joining the two hemispheres together. Let's move on. There's the note for you. There's your cerebrum. Receives and interprets sensation, controls higher order thinking, controls voluntary. Let's look at the cerebellum. And I'm going to tell you now, balance. It's coordination, so that your movement is not jerky. Your movement is coordinated. And children who have cerebral palsy, this is a part of their brain that's not working so okay like you. Alright? So cerebellum, balance. Next to the pituitary gland. The small one I told you, that looks like a little pea, little Kool-Aid beans. What does it produce? It produces hormones, FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, growth hormone. We're going to do this in the endocrine system. Thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH. These hormones and a few others of the pituitary gland will be discussed in the endocrine system. Let's look at the hypothalamus. What does the hypothalamus do? Let's go back to our diagram, and you're now on your textbook, page 109. Let's do that. And you can see your hypothalamus there. But I'm going to just go to the previous diagram so you can see here's the hypothalamus. Let's see what its function is. It controls the autonomic nervous system, ANS, which is homeostasis. I'm going to tell you about this tomorrow. It's our next lesson, what is homeostasis. But it's controlling blood pressure. It's controlling your sleep patterns. Do you sleep straight? Do you sleep on the side? Do you lift up your legs when you sleep? It controls your body temperature. Very, very important. This one here, PEG, it's possible examination question. It even controls your hunger and thirst. Alright? That's your hypothalamus. And then we'll do the medulla oblongata. It's controlling involuntary movement. That means all your muscles inside your body for digestion, your blood vessels. See, it controls your diameter of your blood vessels, cold and hot days. It controls coughing and sneezing. Even your heartbeat is controlled by this little medulla oblongata. Let's just go back a little bit to the previous diagram again, and let's check. You see here you have your medulla oblongata. It's got a central canal here. And that central canal, it's got an opening like a long straw. And through that central canal, you have the spinal cord going through. How are we doing? Let's stop there for now, and we will do some revision.